This is a D6 Generation Pip. Bite-sized content for a busy gamer. Sometimes featuring Craig, sometimes featuring Russ.
Hey, what about me?
Oh yeah, and sometimes featuring Raef, Hollywood Granger. Hey everyone, welcome to another D6G Pip. Hey, we got kind of a special one here today for you. In a little bit, we're going to have a recurrence, a coming back, a call back to the old days, Raef's Hollywood Minute segment, in a few minutes here. But his Hollywood Minute was a little short, about 15 minutes, so it's long for a minute, but a little short for a full episode. And while pips are meant to be bite-sized, I kind of felt like that might be just a tad, maybe, I don't know, too bite-sized for this situation. So I thought I would give you a little extra content today. So before we get to the Hollywood Minute, I want to do a quick review of another game that we did pick up at Gen Con this year from our friends at Smirk Dagger Games. Kurt Covert and the folks over there always cranking out really innovative and different gaming experiences. And this one's called The Night Cage. And I got to say, it was pretty much one of the hotnesses at Gen Con. Huge crowds at the Smirk and Dagger booth. And these boxes were just moving. Fortunately, Kurt got plenty of supply, so I think he was able to get Night Cage out to anybody who needed it. But it was moving really, really fast, and you could see it all over the convention. And people were lining up to try the demos. And I think one of the reasons is the table presence. The second is the theme and the mechanics. And the third is just, it's just cool. So let me give you a quick overview of this thing. It's not very complicated, but it is an awful lot of fun. I had a chance to play it, saw it demoed, saw it played quite a bit at Gen Con, and got a chance to play a couple games, 2-player games with my youngest daughter, who, again, just for everybody to understand, she is 18 now. So youngest is an operative term. She's the youngest of my two, but by no means young anymore when you compare that to most people's children. So in any case, she also is a great critic, and I'm going to try to convince her to come on the show not too far from now, because I'm often accused of being too optimistic. Well, Kit, my youngest, she is much more straightforward in her comments and also quite dry-witted. So hopefully I can get her to come on the show. But in any case, and maybe I'll get her to share a few of her thoughts on some of these games that I've been reviewing as the past, so you can kind of get a feel for our differences in what we're looking for games. But she does love games, and she loves learning new games with me, which is a lot of fun. So anyway, back to The Night Cage. So cool looking game, right? When I'm looking at the box here, it is just this jet black box with this sort of spooky Night Cage font on the front, and a hand holding the only light that a brightness on the box is from a hand holding up a candle that's burning low, and the wax is just dripping down a human's hand, and all you can see is the wax and the candle and the sort of the glow of the candle fading off into the darkness on the box cover. And if you look really carefully, you'll see these little hands creeping in from the shadows on the edge of the light towards the candle, as if to maybe try to snuff it out. So it definitely sets the theme for the game. This is a survival, I want to say horror game, but sort of survival spooky board game. And it's a pure co-op designed for 1 to 5 players. And it says the playtime is about 50 minutes. And I would say that's about right. Kit and I, in our learning game, under an hour, playing with the basic rules. And then we immediately went to the advanced rules, which is basically what I would call the full game rules. They call it the basic game and the advanced game. I would call it the training mode and the real mode. Definitely the advanced mode is where the fun is. The training mode is good to get a feel, but you definitely feel like the game's either easy or maybe a little luck-based. And my daughter was kind of like, take it or leave it after the basic game. But I was like, let's try the advanced game. And during that, she starts, now I see why this game's interesting, right? So definitely make sure you get to the advanced mode. But I do like the beginner mode just to kind of get you rolling. Although if you're a hardcore gamer, I think you probably could go right to advanced. So when we open the box, I'm going to actually make the box down here on the microphone. There it is. Not as exciting as when Craig makes all those sound effects. But the first thing you'll notice is there's like a little card inside and a little logo on the game manual that tells you there's a little app you can download for easy tutorials, which is kind of neat. The rule book, though, again, very stylized. Got that black cover with just a candle on it. And as you look through the entire rule book, Smirk and Dagger always does this, and they do a fantastic job where the game oozes the theme as you experience the box. So even the edges of the box have this cool artwork of, looks like just this black and white sort of pencil dot drawing. I don't know how to describe it exactly. Almost like speckled white paint on black of people crawling towards the light through these dense tunnels where there's no room to pass each other. So you get this feeling of darkness, confinement, and being in a dark cage or dark prison, or perhaps a night cage, if you will. And the book, again, the book is beautiful. There is about, almost 20 pages in the book, but really, it's not that intimidating because the fonts are large. There's a lot of art, and there's this cool sort of blackness logo all around the edges, the little hands coming in. I mean, you definitely, every page, you are reminded what the theme is. In the box itself, you do get a lot of interesting components. Of course, there's the game board, and the game board is sort of this black as night game board with very gray sort of grid on it. So the game board itself is, and there's a little spot for different token things in the corners, but fundamentally the game board is essentially a grid. It is double-sided, with one side for 1 to 4 players and the other side for that 5th player. You need a little more room there for them. And then you get a bunch of tiles which are all explained in the box. And this is essentially a co-op, dungeon crawler or night cage crawler, as it were, right? In the box, there are some cool components. Each player is going to get a cool player card. I'm looking at the box right now. A player card with a summary of their turn on one side, and then things you can do when your light goes out. So there are conditions where your candle's going to blow out, because basically the theme is you are navigating through this night cage, trying to escape. At least this is like a fluff paragraph here I can read. You awake to discover that you and several others are imprisoned within a pitch-black labyrinth. The rough-hewn stone passages provide barely enough room to crawl through, and the walls claw at your skin as you pass. Equipped with nothing but dim candles, you must work together to explore the maze and escape. Distressingly, the weak candlelight only illuminates your immediate surroundings. Worse still, you are beginning to suspect something else is moving in the suffocating darkness just beyond the flickers of your candle, and it despises the light. So there you go. That's the theme. You're trying to get away. Now, what's interesting about this is a really interesting mechanic is it is a dungeon crawler, but what gets most people right away when you watch the demo is as you're laying tiles out that describe the dungeon, as your player who's holding the candle is moving, you're exposing tiles with your candlelight of where you could go, but the tiles behind you are removed from the board. So this is sort of a magic labyrinth, meaning that the layout of it can change as you walk. And so you don't know where you've been anymore, which is sort of interesting. And you must use the other players who are also generating these little bubbles of light. That's the only part that's constant. The only part that's not going to change is wherever a player is. And so you're going to have to use that to your advantage. And if you find key components, I did a play on words there. You'll want to make sure you get those before you move on, because if you move away, they're gone forever, potentially. So one of the things you get in the game as well, which is really important, is the sideboard. Now, the sideboard is a place where you can put the spent game tiles. And this is really important because this is very much a strategy sort of puzzle game in the end. And on the right-hand side of this little board here, you're going to see places where you can pull the tiles, and there's going to be counts for the number of tiles as well. So, for example, how many straight tiles there are, how many crossroads tiles, which is 4-way intersections, how many T tiles there are, but more importantly, how many key tiles, how many gate tiles, how many start tiles, and then also some of the monsters. There's different kind of creatures that are inhabiting the dungeon. In the basic game, the only creatures you got to worry about are the wax eaters. Some really cool stylized art with mouths and a bunch of little hands. These are the hands that are reaching out. But in the more advanced game, you'll have less wax eaters because there's going to be other monsters joining in. All the keys are going to be defended by keeper monsters. And then there's going to be these pit fiends. And then these 2 different kinds of bosses you can have. So there's always only one boss if you're playing the advanced game with bosses. And this is a way to adjust the difficulty level. So bosses are optional in the advanced mode. And then there's 2 different bosses you can choose from. Anywho, we played the basic game, and then Kit and I went right to boss mode, trying the full advanced game with the Omens boss, which was pretty interesting. So the reason this is important in knowing how many tiles have been spent is, as I mentioned, what you're going to basically do is during your turn, you are going to, basically if your candle is lit, which it is in the beginning of the game, you are either going to move or you're going to stay still. If you move, basically, while your little candle token, I didn't finish what was in the box, but basically each player is going to get a little wooden candle token. And the other cool thing is there's going to be this giant cardboard candle that is assembled out of 4 pieces of cardboard that creates this cool, looks like a drippy wax candle from one side, but if you spin it around, it holds all those little, maybe, I don't know, they're like 2 inch by 2 inch, maybe 1 by 1 inch tiles. And these are double-sided tiles. They form the dungeon as you explore it. And on one side, there's a pit on every single one. So the back side's the same. And on the other side is one of these tiles that's either a type of passage. It's either a T passage, a 4-way crossroad, a straight, but then also it could be these gates and keys and other things. And as part of setup, you're going to arrange this sort of deck of tiles into the candle. So the candle is going to hold all the tiles. Now, as you're exploring, your candle is going to be sitting there with 4 tiles, the 4 cardinal or orthogonal directions from where you currently are, lit, right? And as you step forward, what you're going to do is add any tiles who would be adjacent to the paths you now illuminated. So if you walk forward into a 4-way tile, right, well, the place you just left is still illuminated. And then there's going to be 3 new tiles, one to the east, north, and west. Let's say it came from the south, for example. You're going to draw 3 new tiles and place them and orient them however you want, place them in one of those 3 new directions, keeping the old tile that's still illuminated because it's 1 square away from you there. But anything beyond that, where you used to be standing, that is no longer illuminated by a candle, is removed from the board and put on the sideboard where you can count things. And this is important because you are trying to find, each player needs to get a hold of a key, and then you need to find a gate. And the gates are locked with 4 locks, all on one gate. And you're going to need all 4 players or 5 players in a 5-player game to get to that gate and all turn their keys at once to open the gate and escape the night cage, right? So the first thing you have to do is each player's got to find a key. Now the tricky bit is the keys, right? When you find a key, a player can only hold 1 key at a time. Now you can pass a key to another player you can see with joint candlelight, but you can't actually hold 2 keys at once. So if you find a key and then you find another key, well, you can't carry that to a player. Someone else has got to get there. And remember, if you leave that key with your candlelight, that key's tile goes to the discard pile, never to return again. You would put it in the key pile. Now there are 6 key tiles in the base game, and there's 4 players in the base game. So you can afford to lose 2 keys and you'll be fine. But here's the tricky bit. So those tiles form that giant candle I mentioned. That candle holder has all the tiles in it. And as you choose tiles from that candle holder, of course, it's going down because it's full of these tiles. If the candle holder becomes empty, runs out of tiles completely, you lose the game. Or if you've lost more keys than you can ever find. So in other words, if you lose, if there's 6 keys in the game and you lose 3 of them or more, then now there's not enough keys for each player to have one, and you are going to auto lose. There are also 4 gates you can find. Now, you only need 1 gate, but you can only find 4. If you were to lose all 4 gates, you would also end the game. So what you have to do is you got to decide early on. Let's say you find a gate early, right? One of your players works into a gate. You've got to decide, okay, well, that's kind of early for me, and we kind of need me moving around. I can stay because my second action, so as I mentioned, it's kind of a simple thing. You can move, right? And when you move 1 space, and then you draw 3 new tiles, or however many tiles are off the tee, the area you're now standing on, and then you end your turn. Now, one more thing to note, some of the tiles have this little crackling sort of thing around them, right? Looks like little spider webs of cracking. And that means the tile's about to cave in. It can be a straightaway or a tile with a curve. It could be all the keys have the crackling on them, for example. All the start tiles have the crackling on them, for example. So when you leave a crackling tile, you flip it over, and it now becomes a pit. If you fall down a pit, there's a mechanic for that. You don't actually automatically die, but you're going to basically teleport somewhere else on the board because the pits basically fall down and then deposit you somewhere else in the labyrinth. And that's risky because you're going to pick a random tile out of the candle stack to see where you land. And that could be good, could be something cool, but it could also be a monster, and bad things happen if you land on a monster. So during your turn, you got to decide, do I want to stay or do I want to move? If you stay, the good thing is you do still have to draw 1 tile off the candle and discard it. And that's risky because the tile you draw is going to be discarded and you could draw a good tile. So that's risky. But maybe it's better than moving. And also remember, moving into like a three-way junction is going to draw three new tiles. So you're going to burn the candle faster, usually by moving. The second thing you got to think about is, so if you stay, the other problem is if you draw a monster, they actually do spawn anyway. Now, monsters are a problem because when you move, if you end your move sort of in a horizontal line with one of the monsters, they sort of attack you at range. And they generally will cause you to throw away 3 tiles and your candle will go out. Now, if your candle's out, that's bad. Now you have to use the lights outside of your card and you'll have to use nerve to move around. And nerve, how you get nerve? Nerve is a token, and it is a token. You start the game with 1 nerve each. And whenever you stay still, you will gain nerve. So the good thing about staying still is you'll gain 1 nerve, but there's a maximum of 2 nerve tokens per player. So once you hit 2, you're done. But the nice thing about nerve is you can use nerve to you can use nerve to move again in 1 turn, or to charge past a monster, or to reduce monster damage. So only discard 2 tiles instead of 3. So that's pretty awesome. And when the lights are out, you can still, in fact, you can't stay. You must keep moving, but you're only going to expose 1 tile at a time. So that's also risky as well. Now, when you get adjacent to another player, they can relight your candle for you. So it's kind of important to stay close together. But if you stay too close together and end up getting in lines, when monsters attack on those straight line things, they'll hit everybody in a straight line. So you got to kind of be careful. There's sort of this game you want to play with spreading out to find stuff. But then once you find an important thing, you want to stay there and kind of keep it lit while your companions try to get to it to get what they need. So if you've already got a key and you find another key, you might want to hold that for someone else to get there. So there's a strategy going on with all of that. Very, very interesting. And then what the advanced mode of the game does is brings in some interesting sorts of things like the Pit Fiend tiles. When one of those is revealed, it's like chess. All the diagonal tiles, like a bishop in chess, all the diagonal tiles next to the Pit Fiend, all the way across the board, will convert to pits. And immediately things fall down them, which is really risky. It's also bad if it was one of the gates you needed to get through, for example. So those can be very bad. There are other monsters, the bosses, the keepers are tricky to get the keys out of. So in the basic game, you just got to find a key and grab it before it falls into the pit. But if there's a keeper on the key, they will attack you. And the only safe way to get a key is to attack them from behind. The good news about the keepers is they don't go away from the board when the lights go out, when you leave them in the dark. So that's kind of a nice way to always find them. So there's kind of a little bonus for the keepers, but it's still a lot of work. So anyway, very interesting game. It's a fun co-op. Kit and I enjoyed it 2-player, but I think it'd be fun with more players. When you play less than 4 players, there's always 4 candles in the game. And in a 2-player game, each player is going to control 2 of them. And it felt good, but it also felt like we were controlling too much. Like she and I both, I think, prefer to control 1 character each. So I think with 4 players, this would be the sweet spot of this game. I don't think it'll add any game time, and I think it's got nice tension to it. So I think this is a really interesting game. It definitely oozes the theme. It's super simple to learn, but I think it is tricky to master. One other thing I will say about the components, I didn't mention this, in addition to all the cool tiles and the 3-dimensional wood candles that mark each player's color on the board, along with that cool candle that holds all the things. The keys themselves are metal, so they're cast in metal. For miniature gamers, you'll recognize it looks just like a metal casting. They look awesome, and they would be, they're great just right out of the box as metal keys, but they'd also be kind of fun to, you can give a quick dry brush or inking of bone on or something to give them a little extra lift. They look like bone keys, like skeletal keys. Pretty cool. So anyway, I like this game a lot, as with all the Smirk and Dagger stuff. The theme, the team there at Smirk and Dagger, just fantastic on theme, component quality, just opening this thing up is great. And just in time for Halloween, if you're looking for a spooky game that's not too heavy, right, that you think it'd be really nice to sit down with and have a couple of, a little bit of, pumpkin juice, as it were, or a pumpkin carving evening, and enjoy a spooky game, I highly recommend The Night Cage from Smirk and Dagger Games. I'm going to give it a 4+ on the D6G rating system. Remember, this is the probability rolling on a D6 that you're going to enjoy this game. I'm going to give it a 4+, but if you like co-op games, here's where it's a bonus. If you like co-op games, I'm going to give it a 3+ with a reroll for co-op players. There you have it, The Night Cage.
I'm Raef Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, folks, this has been a long time in the making. This is Raef Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute. Yes, that's right. Longtime listeners will know that back in the original airings of the D6 generation, Russ, Craig, and I would have our own segments where we would wax on about those things that were of interest to us, and I called mine the Hollywood Minute. And the irony behind that was it was never a minute long. It was about 15 to 20 minutes long. And I've been thinking about for, months and months and months and months about redoing the Hollywood Minute, sharing with people what I'm up to, the stuff I've been thinking about and doing in the gaming miniature hobby world. Heck, who knows? Maybe you'll even get some ruminations in my current job as a business coach. Who knows? You'll even hear some koshery type stuff if I think it'll be of value to this listening audience. Okay, so thanks to Phil, longtime listener, he Facebook messaged me and he said, "Hey, you ever think about catching us up on what you're doing, Raef? I used to really love those segments." And so, Phil, I dedicate the inaugural and first relaunch of the Hollywood Minute to you, my friend. Hope you are finding this as well as you can be as you're listening to this, and it's giving you some small pleasure. I hope. That's my plan. All right. Let's see. My plan is to just give you an overview, and then in subsequent Hollywood Minutes, we'll go into it in detail. So first, let's do board gaming. I have actually been playing a bunch of board games with my youngest daughter, and we've been playing the heck out of Wingspan. That's a Stonemaier game. Love the game. Super fun. I've always liked birding all the way back. The game, for those of you that don't know, is you have this huge, large, very beautiful, very colorful deck of bird cards, and it's a resource management style game. I think it plays rather quickly. And, you have a hand of bird cards and you get these really cool wooden eggs and you go about the board and you have some fun. I'm not doing it justice. Obviously, go watch it played or watch your favorite YouTube channel on how to play the game or to see some visuals or go over to Board Game Geek and read up on it. But a really good game, super fun. My daughter and I really like it. My only complaint, actually, and it's not a complaint at all, it's just because we use it so much, is the tower. You have this cool little birdhouse tower thing that you roll dice through, and we've worn the pegs out where they sit. Again, no, not the manufacturer's problem at all, just for our overuse. But I think I'm going to buy one of those aftermarket wooden dice rollers. But I want it to look like a birdhouse, right? I don't want it to look like I don't want it to just be the magnetic kind that click together. It's a dice roller. Anyway, I digress in my normal fashion. So I've been playing Wingspan. That then led me to want to buy Vinhos, which is another Stonemaier games. And I've only played the test version of that. And I don't know, the jury's out on that. I'm going to have to play this with some live components. I think it could be the theme. Perfectly great game, but I think it could be the theme. It's not grabbing me as much as Wingspan does. Sorry, I said the wrong thing. The Stonemaier game is Viticulture. And the reason why I bought it is I was gifted Vinhos back in the day, and I've been wanting to play it, but it's a rather complex game, and I've read the rules 3 times, but I haven't been brave enough to break it out and actually play it with anybody because I'm afraid that it'll be, Agricola style, intimidating, and I'll have to have the right player group for that. So I bought Viticulture looking for a more simpler, quote, simpler, end quote, wine Euro game, and it is that, but I'm not so sure. Like I said, I'm not sure if the theme grabs me. So that's what's been going on there. Of course, as you know, role-playing wise, been playing in 2 different D&D campaigns, although I took a hiatus from the second one. But the first one you probably hear, which is run by Russ, and that one's been super fun, where I play Euphemia the Rogue. She is a great character. She is one of those people that I can just get inside her head, figure out what she's doing. I never understood when actors would talk about the characters that they portray as if they were a separate person that lives and breathes. I'm always like, come on, we all know that exists because of you, the actor, But now that I'm playing Euphemia, I actually kind of get what they're driving at. Euphemia is a separate living and breathing creation. Even though I've created her, she somehow just is her own personality. So she's super fun to play. And then Doc went ahead and created a campaign with some of my Ohio friends, Jeff and Tyler, and new friend Aaron, and Doc, and then Joe and John joined us, which is really cool because it was a blend of New Hampshire and Ohio. And that was on Saturdays during COVID, and that was really fun as well. I think that's the Salt Marsh campaign. And I was playing a cleric there. It was really fun. I made him be in the same clan as Joe's dwarven cleric and John's, not dwarven cleric, Joe plays a paladin, and John's dwarven druid. I made my cleric in Doc's campaign be like a brother or a best friend. I can't remember which now in that world. So that was a neat little tie-in. So he's a cleric of Moradin. And but then my Saturdays sort of got a little busy with home things. Some of you may know I like to practice power yoga, and there's this one class my wife and I like to go to, and I was missing out on a bunch of those classes and kind of some fun morning time with my wife. And so I took a hiatus from playing on that for a while, and then the whole group took a hiatus. So the second D&D campaign's not playing, and right now we're on a little bit of a break with Russ's campaign as well. So that's what's been going on. I've not played any other D&D games. I have gotten together with old Andy and Dave Farr, and we've played Magic the Gathering a few times using the D&D themed decks, and that was super fun. Andy has this game. I'm drawing a blank. It's the game. It's a card building game, but there's like a campaign to it. Oh gosh, you guys are going to kill me. Sorry. As you can tell, this isn't scripted. Just a couple bullet points of what I wanted to cover. Should have looked that game up. But anyway, we've been playing that. And then the last thing I've been doing, which has been taking up a lot of my time in a good way, is playing World of Warcraft. And so despite everything that's been going on with Blizzard, which maybe by now is maybe calmed down as far as how the social media goes. Not that the issues are any less important. I mean, gosh, I don't want this to become a rant about that, but what was going on over there just sounds gross, icky, and uncalled for. I'm glad there's a light being shined on it, and I'm glad. My hope is that there'll be some change over there, which it seems to indicate there will be. So anyway, playing what we call retail, but then also playing what we call classic. And so this next part will be all about MMOs. So the likes of you that have zero interest in MMOs, please feel free to tune this part out and move on from this segment of the Hollywood Minute by all means. So again, I'll just do an overview, then we'll get into depth later. But it all started, I started to play Classic WoW about a year or so ago when they launched it, because I wanted to be part of what was the original, huge phenomenon known as WoW back in the day. I didn't play WoW back in the day. I wasn't part of vanilla. I can't tout that I've played vanilla WoW since launch. That's what Classic WoW is called. It's called Vanilla WoW or Classic WoW. And then the current iteration of WoW is called Retail or Retail WoW. So I didn't play vanilla back in the day. Longtime listeners will know I played Latro, Lord of the Rings Online, where the famous Stony the Guardian, which acted as a tank and also made a lot of pies in the game. That's where that is a callback to. So when everybody else was playing WoW, I was playing Lord of the Rings Online, which I loved very much, and didn't get into WoW until maybe 5-6 years ago, and always felt like a latecomer. So by them launching the classic servers, it gave me a chance to sort of be like those that didn't get a chance to start. And there was big ruminations of whether classic WoW would even take off. I suspected it would, and it did. I mean, me and many others, and it did, which was really cool to see. And I played a mage, and it was so fun. I get why WoW was so addicting back then, and so many people played it, because you really had to earn your levels. It wasn't just handed to you, so to speak. Yes, it is just clicking 4 or 5 buttons, but it's not handed to you as far as the time commitment, let's put it that way, and the dedication to the game, let's put it that way. And so I leveled my mage all the way up to 60, and this is back in Classic, and I did a couple raids, and I still didn't really know what raiding content is. And again, I'll get into more detail in the next segment of all that. Currently, I'm now playing the Burning Crusade Classic. So what they did was they took the next expansion known as the Burning Crusade, and they launched that in its classic form with some upgrades and some tweaks, which of course, as you can imagine, creates all sorts of nerd rage, because there'll be people out there saying, oh, the Burning Crusade Classic isn't like the Burning Crusade because you weren't able to do X, fill in the blank, and that makes the purists really, go bananas. But I'm going to say 99% of the game is what the game was, with a few quality of life upgrades. It's funny, they offered a upgrade pack for this version, and you could get this mount that I got, not knowing it was not offered in the original game. And so I'd be riding around on my mount, and then these characters would do this spit emoji. There'd be all these people spitting, and sometimes it would say spits at Stony, and I'm like, what are they doing? What did I do to upset them? And then I read an article, and with this whole Blizzard thing happening, they took that emote. They took that emote out. You can't spit on someone anymore. But people were spitting at me in quotation marks because I had a mount that wasn't offered in the original game. So you can see the nerd rage of that. It's just redonkulous. But in general, the classic community is known to be a little bit more either mature, calm, easier going, more friendly, despite what I just told you. That was super rare occurrence. And so in the Burning Crusade Classic, I built a warrior character, and she's called Stony Shell, Shelle, which I thought was really fun play on words, because it's like shell, like a hard shell, like a tank, and also Shelly, like sometimes people call Michelle. So I was really happy with that name, and leveled up that warrior tank all the way from 1 to 70. And so that is also makes me hit an achievement in our yearly prediction episodes of leveling a character from 1 to 70. And I even did it the old school hard way in the super slow version of the game, not retail. It's been really a lot of fun. And then now I've been doing this thing called raiding, end quote. And I had always heard about what a raid was, and I never had done it before. I'd always been scared by it. I'd heard that it's intimidating and hard, and it's a job, and never understood what people meant. I'm like, why is a game a job? I don't get it. Well, now that I'm part of a casual raiding guild, I'm like, oh, I see the job aspect to it. And it's just that sometimes your character, your toon, needs certain materials and flasks and potions and things and gear in order to be effective doing your part inside the raid. And right now I'm doing 10-man Karazhan. And again, I'll get into more detail of the nuances of that. But as I'm logging in to sort of get gold, which is really hard to get in Classic, and you can't buy it with real money. You have to earn it in the game. So for example, I only have 500 gold from the inception of when I've played. And of course I've bought things along the way, but it's not like I have 10,000. Now, I'm not a huge person that spends a lot of time in the auction house or plays the game for gold, so I'm probably not the best gold maker. But, just to give you an example, I've been playing for over a year, and I only have 500 gold. And a flask that I need to raid is about 45 to 50 gold on the auction house. So it's about 100 gold each pop. So, as you can imagine, in between weeks, I'm sort of running around trying to do various things to earn some gold. And I'm like, oh, this is the job aspect of the game. I get it now. Instead of just dinking around on my character, I've got to run around and do gold creation activities in order to play the raid. And tonight happens to be Tuesday, so I'll be doing a raid tonight. So that's what I've been up to there. I've not dabbled in cooking because the game doesn't give you enough time. I've spent all my time leveling and now making gold for raids. But many people do. You can cook, you can fish in this game. But in summary, what I want to say, I've been having a blast with playing and raiding in the Burning Crusade Classic. I found a great group of people, a great community, and we chat and we have fun. And that's how I've been spending most of my Tuesdays, having started through COVID and now continuing. And it's been a lot of fun, and I've been doing a lot of reading and researching and trying to learn my class to the best of the ability. And I'm sort of like, oh, I get it now. I get it, what people were talking about 10, 15 years ago about being part of a raiding guild and how it really dedicated time and how it consumed their time. So for me, it's been tons of fun. I recommend anybody, it's never too late. If you've got the time to be somewhat addicted, jump on in. If you have any questions for me on how to get going or how to get started, I can point you towards some videos or just tell you how to jump in. And heck, we could even be on the same server or something. So you can email me at hollywood@the d6generation.com. Last I checked, that email was live and will get to me. So that's hollywood@the d6generation.com. And until next time, thanks for listening to this rant and ramble of the first iteration of the Hollywood Minute since way back in yesteryear. Hey, until next time, see you later.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by emailing us at info@the d6generation.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. Thanks for listening and happy gaming.